The City of Neenah is pleased to provide video recordings of City Council meetings. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents from the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or completing the electronic feedback form on the city website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City of Neenah Common Council meeting for September 4th, 2024. The clerk will call the roll. Please indicate your presence on your roll call device as well.
Alderman Boyette.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Strom.
Here.
Ellis.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Paulnow.
Here.
Steiner.
Here.
Lendrum.
Here.
Orchard.
Here.
Thank you. Alderman Boyette will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is introduction and confirmation of mayor's appointments. That is the appointment of myself and Alderman Lendrum to the East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, Appleton Fox Cities Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy Board for a 2-year term expiring April 2026. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of that appointment? Seeing none, that is approved. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the council proceedings, minutes and proceedings of August 21st, 2024 regular session. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of the approval of those minutes? Seeing none, those minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is the public forum. This is the opportunity for anyone from the public who would like to speak on a topic of interest to the council. If you would like to do that, please come forward, state your name and residential address, and you are allowed to speak for 5 minutes on any topic. Is there anyone who would like to speak during the public forum?
Bob Lace, 765 Oak Street. Keep in mind that whatever you vote on tonight, this is going to be your legacy. It's going to go down in the history books. People will remember this. First of all, before I get on my main topic, I would like to suggest that the City of Neenah fund a plaque recognizing all veterans, all employees that are veterans. Current and past veterans. This includes the fire department, public works, and the police department. It would go right on this wall over here, by branch. Second, Mark made a comment last time I was here that the city or the state was forced and actually blackmailed to raising the drinking age. If not, they would lose funds. That's partially correct. At that time, I was a member of the Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And the first time I approached the city council, I was shot down. Second time I came back, I was teaching judo at that time, but I brought a student, one of my students that was I hate to use the word inmate, but he was a resident of, down in Oshkosh. For juveniles, AODA or alcohol and dependence. And this is for juveniles. And he came back and I said, I'm not going to speak. He spoke. He said his name is Bob and I'm 12 years old and I'm an alcoholic. From that point on, the city council, you could hear a pin drop. That night, the city did approve an amendment to raise the drinking age in the state of Wisconsin to 21. Now, my main topic here, agenda, this has been going on for decades. Actually, the original goes back to the class of 1939, not the 80s, has been stated over and over again in the newspapers. High school class of 1939 lost a student to a drunk driver who had purchased alcohol. And in your paper, your agenda, you have convenience stores, which is kind of misleading. What you're not saying there is that these are gas stations. And what you're saying it's okay for convenience stores, but you're not saying anything about gas stations. Well, when you mix gasoline and alcohol, you can get it. It's okay to have a drunk driver or drinking and driving. This has been my main contention for years and years and years. You cannot mix both of them together. Keep them separate and look at that reasoning right there. Again, these are gas stations. Convenience stores are fine, but when they sell gasoline, you're saying it's okay to sell alcohol and pump gas, which leads to drunk driving. National news, we just lost 2 athletes to a drunk driver. I mean, it's front page. It's over and over and over again. We've been doing good for the last few decades as far as eliminating drunk driving, especially for young people. The deaths have gone down just dramatically. Keep in mind again, what you vote on tonight is going to be your legacy. Third topic, I would like to suggest that the old Jersey knitting mill site be used as a community garden. Don't know if this has ever been brought up before or anything else. It looks nice when there's green space there. We don't have to have a gas station on every corner. We don't have to have a convenience store on every corner. Convert that or change it into a garden, a public garden. Let people get together, grow their own food. People are complaining about the high price of food. Grow your own food. We've had gardens for the last 50 years. We even had a garden when we had the boys group home in Neenah. We were featured in the newspaper because the garden was going so good. That was back in the early 70s. So we've always had gardens. That's basically what I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate Hancock Cook. I live at 216 Bosworth Court here in Neenah, and I am a county board supervisor for District 7. I just wanted to highlight that last night at our county board meeting, we were given a presentation on the Spirit Fund dashboard. That's the piece of paper that's at your place. And I gave you this copy because it does have some helpful arrows pointing at things. We don't expect to be able to read the middle part because it's too small. But I wanted people to be aware that there is an attempt being made to make it very clear about where the funds are going. There's 65 projects that have been funded, and I wanted people in the public to be able to be aware that that Spirit Fund dashboard is there. Everybody can look at it. It's not a restricted site or anything. So if you type in Spirit Fund Winnebago County dashboard, you'll be able to find it on your computers. And I wanted to highlight that the next Spirit Fund meeting will be on September 11th at 1 o'clock in the County Executives Building on Otter Street, and it'll be up on the 4th floor. So if anybody wants to attend that and hear what funds are left, what the plans are to do with it, I don't know that yet. I'm hoping I can go to that meeting to find out. But I thought that you might be curious about that as well. So I wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public forum?
My name's Eric Leiser. I live at 2533 Marathon Ave in Neenah. I run the Quick Trip here in town. I just kind of want to speak on behalf of the convenience store alcohol sales. We have lots of options as a company to go build in other areas in Michigan, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa. We really look for communities that are pro-business, that are friendly, and that allow us to sell the full array of our menu. When we aren't able to sell our full array of menu, it can affect our profitability. It can, just overall affect the store. We don't get as many coworkers. We don't get as many sales when we have to deter people to other convenience stores in town or in other towns in the area. As far as when we build a new store, we usually add about 50 jobs to the community. I know at my store I got almost 60 coworkers on and off. And, that's jobs added to the community. That's jobs from people who live in the town around us and the city around us. As far as responsibility-wise, we take it very serious. We have ID checks as a company. We send around our own independent ID checks on top of the state ones that come around. Our crew go through training as well. We have a step discipline process, which leads to termination for coworkers who don't follow through on checking IDs on guests who are the proper age. As far as just overall, we just kind of we wish you guys would consider it and obviously pass it to push it through, because it just really helps us in the business end of things, and overall just makes it fair and level playing field between areas around us, because you can drive over to Fox Crossings, you can drive over to Menasha and get the beer and the rest of the menu, where at our stores we're not able to do that. So just wish you to consider it and pass it through.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in the public forum?
This is good timing, I guess. Mark Nofke, 637 Elm Street. I am all for Neenah selling alcohol at gas stations. It doesn't affect me. I don't think it really would lead to much more drunk driving. I do find it coincidental, however, that Neenah is now 30 cents higher in gas per gallon, and he's talking about profitability. I think they're making us pay them the profit of that they're losing on their alcohol sales. To me, it's been different for a while, but 10 cents is okay. 30 cents, 40 cents seems coincidental that now you're voting on this same thing, and they haven't lowered the price when all neighborhoods have. On another topic, across the street from me is Shattuck. There are still signs out that says that's a school zone, no parking on that side of the street. It has since been sold. I would like to know if those signs are going to come down, and I would like to know if there is communication between the police station with the no trespassing. I did talk to the police station themselves. Just living right across the street, great police presence during the day, minimal at night. There's no trespassing because of vandalism. When does vandalism happen? In the middle of the night. I'm not awake most of the time. I go to work at 4 in the morning, but I've never seen a cop drive around at night. I've seen plenty of them sit in that parking lot in the middle of the day. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Sabora, 1185 Skyview Drive in Neenah. Thanks for the opportunity to talk tonight. I know some of you from my 30 years working for the Neenah Joint School District. When I retired in 2011, I had 2 other great jobs. One is I do executive relocation work. I've worked with 24 different companies from Oshkosh to Green Bay, and we promote and introduce the Fox Cities to people considering moving here. And I always have to explain alcohol. I have to explain that. The couple from Vermont said, I don't get it. Vermont has 80 state-run liquor stores. That's it. They don't sell alcohol in supermarkets, at Walmarts, in gas stations. That's a hard conversation to have. And as you know, I'm not going to talk about the drunkest cities and all that kind of stuff, but that's out there somewhere. That's out there somewhere in the relocation world. It truly is. But I also teach part-time at Fox Valley Technical College, and I have the pleasure of working with people who've been arrested for drunken driving. So if a person gets arrested for drunken driving, they have a drug and alcohol assessment, and then they have an option to go to private counseling or to take a state-run course that I teach. And I've learned a lot of, we love alcohol here, don't we? Don't we love alcohol in Wisconsin? And we do. We're the only state in the country where drunken driving is not a crime. It's a violation. It is a glorified speeding ticket. We are the only state in the country where you get a free pass. If you're arrested for drunken driving, it's your first offense. If 10 years pass and you get arrested again your 11th year, oh, it's still your first offense. We just bend over backwards. We just bend over backwards for that. We've slipped in the rankings, and I think it's a good thing. We're no longer number 1 in the country for binge drinkers. We're number 2. Number 1 now belongs to the state of North Dakota, and binge drinking, per definition, is someone who has for a male, it's 5 drinks within 2 hours. For a female, it's 4 drinks within 4 hours. So we are number 2 there. Oh, foolish me! I speak at these public forums. Before the pandemic, I went to how can we fix the roads? Remember that discussion? How can we fix all the roads? And now some federal money has trickled down. So I go to a listening session by 2 state representatives, one a Democrat and one is a Republican. And why did I do this? How can we fund the roads? I raise my hand and say, well, raise the tax on beer. The last time the beer tax was raised in the state of Wisconsin was 1969. And one of those politicians said, I can't bring that up, it's political suicide. I cannot do that. We tax alcohol, we tax beer in the state of Wisconsin at 6 cents a gallon. We're number 48, tied with Missouri. The only state that charges fewer taxes is the state of Wyoming. Does increasing access to alcohol really improve the quality of life in our community? I don't know. I challenge you to Google what are the good things about alcohol and see what you find. See what you find. It's a known carcinogen. It's tied to domestic abuse. It's tied to crime. It's tied to vehicular homicide. All kinds of bad things happen. There's a gentleman here from Quick Trip, and I've not met him, but in the OWI classes I teach, students have to tell the story of the time, day, night, morning that they were arrested, and unfortunately, the words Quick Trip come up too often. It's either open 24 hours. After bar time, I'm hungry. Where am I going? It's after bar time, I want a pack of cigarettes. Where am I going? There's a young woman in the class right now who did her roadside sobriety test in a Quick Trip because the weather was nasty outside. So that's in the formula somewhere. And I know some of this is about fairness, and I don't know if you ever get to fairness, right? How come restaurants can serve alcohol but food trucks can't? Why is that? I don't know. How come we sell alcohol downtown Neenah at Boogie and the Yo-Yos, but we don't sell it at the Christmas Fest? Well, why is that? I don't know. I don't know how you get to fairness. And I'm also sensitive to the economic development piece. I get it. I know that Doty Island is a food desert there, and something needs to happen there. So, I guess if you think that increasing access to alcohol makes Neenah a better community, then vote yes tonight. Thank you.
Ron Albrecht, 1144 West Wind Court, Neenah. I also work for Quick Trip, and all we're asking is for a level playing field. I actually got some visual aids because I know in the past an argument was made about about alcohol and youth, and I know we're not talking about single serves here, but it's just kind of the way that merchandising is this way. This is LaCroix water, non-alcoholic, colorful can. This is probiotic water, colorful, non-alcoholic. V8, an adult drink, colorful can, not alcoholic. Sparkling lemonade water, colorful can, not alcoholic. Monster energy drink, I don't drink them, but non-alcoholic. Common thing about every one of those drinks, and I got one more here. Common thing about every one of these drinks is liquid death. Sounds awful, but it's actually a water, non-alcoholic. Every one of those drinks, you bring them to the register, they're gonna ring up. This item here, single serve, colorful can, this is alcoholic. You bring this item to the register, it's going to get flagged. It gets flagged as alcohol, so it is differentiated. So in terms of youth coming to a door and getting a Monster, yeah, they can go right to the register. If they get an alcoholic drink, they're going to get flagged at the register for an ID check. So as Eric noted, we do have very strict policies, very strict discipline. All we look for is a level playing field. We have individuals that come into our community, especially the store in Neenah here, where we're on a major traffic artery, Highway 41. We get a ton of people going to from Packer games, going to or from Brewer games, Badger home games, and I don't know how many people I personally turned away to other businesses because they cannot believe, we hear it from people all over the state, that I can't believe you don't carry beer, you know? Also in regard to people driving and us selling gas, my guess is if they're going to a liquor store, if they're going to CVS, if they're going to a grocery store, or if they're going to a bar to get a carryout, they probably drove to that place to get buy their beer there too, and they're probably going to drive away. So I think just because we sell gas argument is totally irrelevant. You know, they're probably driving wherever they go to purchase the alcohol. So again, we just look for a fair and level playing field. And I think I used this example previously. I mean, our store in Neenah here, we can't sell beer, but you can walk across the parking lot to CVS Pharmacy, pick up a Vicodin prescription, and grab a 12-pack there. So, I mean, that's all we're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public forum?
Hi, my name is Raymond Yankee. I live at 203 Joseph Court, Apartment 2. Last week when they had that boogieing and yo-yos, they had control of how they were doing it anyways, just except for the bars and the restaurants were selling it the right way, and they were doing it in the right demeanor. But some of the things they did was, maybe it was wrong or what. I don't know what. They walked out with cups. They didn't walk out with bottles or didn't walk out with glasses or anything. They walked out with plastic cups, and that's what they were told to do. Most of the bars and restaurants were told to do last week when the concert was on. That's all I know. So that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in the public forum?
Good evening. My name is Heidi Keating, 525 Ryford Road in Neenah. I'm also an employee of the Winnebago County Health Department. So this issue, it's bigger than Quick Trip. There's a problem statement in our state. Excessive alcohol use remains a significant threat to the health, safety, and prosperity of our residents, and that's statewide, including Neenah. Increasing the availability of alcohol or alcohol outlet density is associated with increased drinking and increased social harms. There's research on that. And you know, specifically about these harms, right? So what we know about alcohol and harms is that alcohol is by far the most harmful when compared to other drugs of misuse, both legal and illegal drugs. So we're talking heroin, meth, cocaine, crack cocaine, tobacco, cannabis, 20 different drugs. Alcohol is the most harmful. And it's based on this criteria. There's multi-criteria, right? And so it's harm to self and harm to others. And why alcohol is the most harmful is because of the harm to others. So that makes it the most problematic. And that includes physical and psychological injury, crime, family adversities, economic costs, and community impact. Alcohol is not an ordinary commodity. It's nice to hear the safeguards that Quick Trip has in place, but this isn't really about Quick Trip. This is about Neenah, our community, and the health and safety of our community. So included, I sent information to all the council members about some data around alcohol, specifically around alcohol attributable deaths in Winnebago County. So deaths have increased in 2020. So again, this is tied to the pandemic, that we've seen alcohol use increase during the pandemic and alcohol deaths also increase. People in Wisconsin die from alcohol-induced causes nearly 25% higher than nationwide. Not surprisingly, people also drink more than the national average. So, and alcohol misuse has detrimental impacts on health, brain development, and public safety. You may think that the short-term lure of economic gain is worth it, rather than look at the larger health and safety costs. In Winnebago County, the estimated annual economic cost of binge drinking is $108.9 million. The truth is, alcohol is not economic development. It's the other way around. Alcohol causes more harm. When determining future growth of the city, your framework needs to include health and safety consequences for the community. Increasing alcohol outlets harms the community, even when the outlets are correctly doing ID checks. So how is Neenah a better place to live, learn, work, and play, and raise a family, all the things that we love about living here? How is it a better place? By increasing alcohol outlet density. And there's the potential to increase to double Class A licenses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kay Horan, 324 9th Street, here in Neenah. I want to thank you all for doing this service for us as a community. First, I want to say I'm a community member of the Winnebago County Health Board. I have read the information that they have provided both to you and to those of us who are on the health board. I have seen that. I am the daughter of an alcoholic who committed suicide. I am the sister of an alcoholic who abused his children, although he went to Alcoholics Anonymous and has been dry for 40 years. So I've got to say, way to go, my brother. That is fabulous. I also want to make mention of the fact that yesterday I was at the groundbreaking for the Boys and Girls Club in Neenah. Wait a minute. A Boys and Girls Club in Neenah? Neenah? What I heard is the Boys and Girls, the statistics of their success is enormous. And we have got kids in our community, and I think that's the most important thing for me to say here, is we've got kids in our community who are in unsafe conditions. And at that groundbreaking, the statistics, as I said, were inspiring. Boys and Girls Club, crime is down. Boys and Girls Club, drinking is down. Boys and Girls Club, success rates are plummeting, are increasing enormously. The children and the teenagers who go to the Boys and Girls Club have a sense of safety. These are enormous to me. Food is provided there. 1,200 young people in our community were arrested last year by our police department. I have to tell you that it's the youth that's important to me. But I'm also going to say that I'm very conflicted about this, because it appears in the information that I have read that there are very clear boundaries as to how you are going to bring the alcohol usage to our city. I do have to say that there's an enormous gas price difference between going to the BP over on Cecil Street and going to the Pride of Menasha on Racine Street. It's a 30-cent, 40-cent a gallon difference. My question is, why is that? Is it because they are allowed to have alcohol and we are not? Just a question. This is conflicting for me. I also know that our state is considering getting marijuana as a drug of use in the state. And you sit there and you go, wait a minute, if there's consideration of legalizing marijuana, I don't tell many people this, but apparently I'm going to go real public right now. I've watched on a marijuana high the Moody Blues in negative. It's something that happens. And there are kids in our high schools who are getting marijuana. There are also young people who are able to go to places that sell alcohol and not have to show theirs because they ask somebody going in, will you go and get me a six-pack? It's happening. It's not something I'm happy with, but what do you do? It's life. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public forum? Seeing no one, I will close the public forum. Is there anyone on council who would like to speak regarding any issues that were brought up during the public forum? Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Director Hayes, could you, excuse me, could you explain the cup drinking at the event downtown and why that was allowed for folks? I think the gentleman, Mr. Yankee, is confused and unknowing about that policy. If you could maybe enlighten the public a little bit on why that was allowed and it's different.
Sure. So the city has allowed, through essentially a special approval, a temporary outdoor consumption that is an approved, what we call a Tedora, as part of the event. So that comes through our special events committee. It comes to this entity for approval, I believe, correct? Mm-hmm. So that there are parameters established as to how, I think it was mentioned, there's no glass going out the door. They're required to have a sticker on the cup. It is during the period of the event. So it is it's essentially a case-by-case basis on which those are approved. It's also, correct, thank you, Mayor. It's also in a defined geographic area in which they can have that open intoxicant.
Thank you, Mr. Yankee. I hope that helps explain why you saw what you saw, and because you're correct, it's not what normal alcohol sales are, but because it's a special event, I just wanted you to be aware. So thank you for your questions.
Council President Borchert.
Thank you, Mayor. I am kind of curious, and it's been brought up several times, and if I could ask the gentleman from Quick Trip, why is it the case that Neenah gas is higher than our surrounding areas? It is a topic that people talk about all the time, and since you guys are working for Quick Trip, can you give us an answer as to why It is noticeably increased just in Neenah.
They don't have to answer.
No, a lot of it has to do with the competition too. Because obviously, we have the minimum markup in Wisconsin, and obviously you have to follow that law. If somebody else violates that law, you can go down and match them without repercussions. So if there's competition, and I think there's some, and we turn them in, we have a very aggressive petroleum department. If they're down below where they should be, which a lot of the market is, a lot of the match is, we go down, we match them in that market, but we stay legal in the other markets where we're at. Same thing if they're matching the legal competition.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else from council who would like to speak regarding the public forum issues? Alderman Hillstrom.
Yeah, just question on the T-door to Director Hayes. Evidently cans were okay to use too for Boogie? Because there were a lot of people walking around with cans.
I don't know. I'm not an expert as Dora. Sorry about that. So I don't know. I didn't write the ordinance. I wasn't part of it, but I don't know. I don't know if cans are acceptable or not. Do you know offhand?
The Tedora ordinance is written so that there's no glass. So cans are okay because there's no glass that can be broken and having to clean it up.
As long as they have a sticker on them.
They are required to have the sticker on, the Tedora sticker on it though.
So yes.
Thank you, Chris.
Is there anyone else on council who would like to speak regarding public forum issues? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, the consent agenda for the approval of temporary extension of licensed premise application to Cedar Neenah LLC for the Cedar Cornhole event to be held on September 7th from 1 to 6 p.m. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of that item's approval? Seeing no objection, that is approved. The next item on the agenda, reports of standing committees, regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of August 27th. Chairman Lundrum.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from the regular Public Services and Safety meeting of August 27th, 2024, and minutes can be found on the city website. Item number 1, committee recommends council approve the purchase of 2 24-foot ceiling fans for the south vehicle bay from Black Gold Environmental Services and the amount of $12,688 and installation costs not exceeding $2,300 utilizing 2024 capital equipment budgeted funds. And I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 9-0.
Item number 2, committee recommends council approve a budget amendment of $8,000 from remaining funds from the Sewer Capital Project Funds, Project SEW09, Sewer Utility Truck, to purchase a Boss VBX 6500 auger salt spreader from Monroe Truck Equipment in the amount of $6,848, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Weber. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 9-0.
Item number 3, committee recommends council approve the design and engineering services of Arrowhead Park to Grafe in an amount not to exceed $189,617, utilizing ARPA funds allocated for Arrowhead as identified in the 2024 capital budget, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Palmo.
Thank you, Mayor. I voted against this item in committee because I guess having a little perspective of being on the council before, there's been a lot of iterations in regard to Arrowhead, and I think it'd probably be a fine project. But my concern is, just for a little historical reference, back in 2012, we had a grave study that was $64,000, and that we'd received a copy at that time for a study for this very same type of project for this park, and we obviously it didn't go anywhere, and so now we are 12 years later, and now we're spending almost $200,000 for a study. This is, again, just a study for, as I see it, as feasibility. And it seems like, as an alderman, you need to make choices. And when we choose one path for expenditures, we can't do other things like, I always reference like West Forest Avenue or some of the streets that we should be doing, in my opinion. So, and it's also troubling that the information provided with this materials, we never even got a copy of what the bid would be. In 2012 we did. We got a 12-page copy of what actually they were doing. In this, we got a memo of what it said they would be doing. So that's why I'll be voting against this, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-2.
Item number 4, committee recommends council approve the schematic design proposal for the Innovation Building from Greece Architectural Group Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $23,500, utilizing budgeted 2024 CIP Arrowhead funds, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Weber. Is there any discussion? Alderman Paulno.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't go, this also is an expenditure for Arrowhead Park. My concerns with this is financial, as well as the fact that we had a RFP interview team, and the last item on the agenda, we had multiple bidders, 20 down to 5, down to 4. This one, we had no bids, and the reasoning utilized in the memo to choose the company that we're choosing was that they had familiarity with Neenah and Arrowhead Park. And then that's concerning to me because I think our process is important. When you're using monies that are basically backed by taxpayers, we should have a consistent process. This wasn't a consistent process. And then we got the hourly bidding rates that was asked for at the Park and Rec Commission afterwards. And just one of the items that really struck me was the billing rate is $85 for administrative assistant. That's what this is, billable rate. And, I have worked with contracts and stuff, that seemed high. And I wonder if we would have had a billing process, would we be getting billed for the taxpayers for $85 for administrative assistant? My thinking is we probably wouldn't. So I'll be voting no for this. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-2.
Item number 5, committee recommends council approve the Prairie Design Services proposal from J. Knox Landscape Architecture LLC in the lump sum amount not to exceed $9,500, utilizing budgeted 2024 CIP Arrowhead funds, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Council President Borchert. Is there any discussion? Alderman Paulno.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the last item for Arrowhead Park that I also will be voting against. I think we're in an arena where choices need to be made by this council, tough ones, and I think that's what I'm doing, and I'm doing it for financial reasons. I don't have any ill will to anybody who put this work together, but I think as alderman, you have to stand up for the constituents who won't really know the minutiae and the details of this, and that's what I'm doing, so I'll be voting no on this as well. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-2.
Item number 6, committee recommends council approve ordinance number 2024-18, modifying the Neenah Municipal Code to permit the sale of malt beverages from convenience stores as specified within the ordinance.
There's a motion by Alderman Ellis, seconded by Alderman Weber. Is there discussion? Alderman Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. We've had a lot of conversation tonight and over the past few weeks, and to Dave and to you, Bob, and to the rest, Kay. and all of you who have come tonight to have talked. It is an easy decision. Not quite sure where it's going to go. I can recall in the days 40 plus years ago, Bob, when you came here and you represented MAD, you did a heck of a job. I supported those initiatives of MAD, including financial. And Dave and I served for many years together on the board of directors for Youth Go, making sure that we always could take care of the kids. And I don't think that I've changed in that thinking either. And Kay, you've always done good community service work, and I've always enjoyed, acquiring my beverages at your family liquor store in Menasha. Oh, I know. And at the end of the day, I want to just cut through some of the mud so everybody understands where this kid is coming from. I believe that we've come so far in alcohol awareness. The school systems have done just a tremendous job the last 40, 50 years. It's only gotten better. The Tavern League has done a terrific job. There is still drug and alcohol abuse going on in the world. It has struck my family as well, and that includes suicide, so this is nothing that I take lightly. I understand that. But I also am one that believes that in this 21st century, we have gotten better. Individuals need to take the responsibilities. A can of beer is no longer going to kill somebody than the person who drank it. The person who was shot in the head by a gun, the bullet didn't do it, the person that squeezed the trigger did. This is kind of that same scenario. Lastly, to punish one group of business over others because we're afraid of the what ifs, that kind of what if thing does, quite honestly, scare me. Because if we really want to make sure that it's being regulated right, in this guy's opinion, the only ones that'd be able to sell it is if it's government regulated. Anything beyond that, the liquor stores, the taverns, the grocery stores, the pharmacies, where do we stop? One of you said that earlier tonight. Where do you stop? We have the permits for special events downtown Neenah. At the end of the day, my friends, to me, it comes down to personal responsibility. I pray to God no one dies from drinking or kills somebody because they were drinking. But to make business fair in this community with our other communities, as we have done over time, to be competitive, to make things convenient for our citizens, I believe that this is the right step. And I hope to God, as Bob stated earlier, that my legacy on this vote tonight would be that I did the right thing. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Weber.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to just say thanks to everybody that came with your perspectives, your opinions. It's not an easy topic, right? And there's really never an easy topic, particularly when there's one that there's emotion with. I'm also I have had personal experience with people that have had alcoholism, suicide attempts, etc. So I understand the emotional part of it. And I fear, I'm not as eloquent as Alderman Ellis, but we got to be careful that we don't mix the two things together. I think this is the appropriate path from a development perspective, and I think it's the right thing for the city. I think we are a very responsible city. I believe people live in Neenah because of that. They don't live here because we don't sell alcohol in convenience stores. I mean, maybe there's a few people that think that that's the most positive, but I truly believe there are a million other positive things about our city, and I think it's the right thing to do from a business and a development perspective. So I will be voting for this. Thank you.
Alderman Steiner.
Thank you. I'd also like to echo my fellow aldermen in thanking everyone to come to speak. Really appreciated just any type of community engagement. From my perspective, I certainly clearly understand the risks and ills of alcohol in society overall. I get it. I've experienced it within my family as well. However, the arguments against the change for me would resonate more if we were just first introducing alcohol to the community. we are far from doing that. You can buy alcohol in any number of establishments, as has been mentioned. You can go to a grocery store, CVS, Walgreens, liquor store, bars, restaurants. To me, allowing from a fairness perspective, gas stations on a pretty limited basis, quite frankly, to sell some beer is consistent with the overwhelming majority of communities across Wisconsin. My perspective is consumers, I think, have the right to choose where they go. I think they have the right to have the option and flexibility of going into an establishment because it's convenient. I don't believe a handful of gas stations getting the right to sell this is going to cause this massive influx in alcoholism across the city, my perspective. And I think it does open doors for development, which is important. It does create jobs potentially, and it also creates further access to individuals to have convenience stores along not just with beer, but other options that they might not have easy access to in certain parts of Neenah. So I'm going to be voting for this change. Thank you.
Council President Borchert.
Again, thank you as well. I don't want to kind of repeat everything that everyone is saying, but I want to, last time this was brought before council, I had voted it down based on the parameters that were established. We talk about equity and fairness and making sure all businesses. It seemed to me that the parameters that the ordinance, when it came before council last time, discussed quite a bit, and it made it more difficult for some of the quote-unquote mom and pop shops to compete. I think this is an opportunity for those stores to be able to compete with some of these larger conglomerates. And once the community development put some more parameters in, kept some of the safeguards that other bars and liquor stores had in there, I felt very comfortable, and I'll be supporting this motion.
Alderman Lundrum.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've been a social drinker my whole entire adult life. And so obviously I'm not against drinking. I just don't need to be swimming in it. When we first moved to Neenah 34 years ago, I was impressed that alcohol wasn't everywhere. It's not in our parks. It's not in all of our stores or convenience stores. And I found that to be a positive thing in my mind for the uniqueness of Neenah. We don't need to be swimming in it. And I also worry that this will be the death knell for our couple smaller mom and pop liquor stores that we have around here. I'm not sure that they'll be able to hang on. I think they're hanging on by a thread as it is. So I will be voting against this. Thank you.
Alderman Paulno.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to weigh in regard to, thank you for everybody for coming, by the way. I think it's always good when we get citizen engagement. I think I have a very unique perspective. I have a long history of alcoholism in my family. Two of my sisters have been went to the grave early because of alcohol-related illnesses, and in the last 5 years, I've had 3 nephews commit suicide based on alcohol and drugs. So I'm real familiar with that. But I go back to the basic fairness. You know, I looked up the word fairness, or actually fair, in the dictionary. It's marked by impartiality and honesty. And, you know, if this was, you know, I remember being on the council and around Neenah when Walmart was given alcohol and festival food and all these other venues, and there was not near this kind of passion. So I think the way it's currently written is not fair, and I think we should be fair, and I have trust in so many different levels of the city of Neenah, in the government and the people, just by the demonstration of people in this hall tonight. So I'll definitely be supporting this, and I think we will, as far as legacy, I will be very, very comfortable telling people how I voted for this and why I did, which I usually am. Thank you.
Alderman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. It always amazes me, the publicity, the input, the discussions we have when anything concerning alcohol happens in our city, whether it's a Tavern League coming up from Madison or discussing things and their attorneys or whatever. It's just always alcohol in this state. Since I was elected to our council in 2007, I had voted on this issue 3 times, with the last 2 being in 2016 and 2019. All 3 times the council voted not to allow alcohol at convenience stores. In 2016, a convenience store owner and his attorney spoke about fairness and how we should change the ordinance. The council said no. In 2019, this discussion came up again, and he again spoke to the council about how he didn't want to change this ordinance because he knew there was a large convenience store group that was considering purchasing land across the street from him, and he figured it would be the end of his company. What had changed? So you heard Mrs. Keating this evening talk about the effects of more alcohol density, and it's worth repeating because it's true. In a report from the World Health Organization, it stated that an increase in the number of places that sell alcohol, increased crime, child abuse, neglect, self-inflicted injuries, and injuries to others. Under a heading saying community prevention that works, the CDC talks about communities deciding when and where alcohol can be sold, and which has proven to reduce excessive alcohol use and related harms to drinkers and others. It's not always the person that's doing the drinking, it's all the people else that they harm because of this. In a new list that came out in July, and it rated the excessive drinking rates in 381 metro areas in the United States. And guess where the Wisconsin cities came in? Number 1, Green Bay. Number 2, Eau Claire. Number 3, Appleton. Number 4, Madison. Number 5, Fargo, North Dakota. Finally, somebody out of Wisconsin. But number 6 was a little bit of a surprise because it's the combined cities of Oshkosh and Neenah. Also making the top 15 were Wausau at number 9, La Crosse on Alaska at number 10, Fond du Lac at 12, and Sheboygan at 15. Obviously, we have a drinking problem in this state. Maybe if we have passed this ordinance tonight, and also the DORA coming to us shortly, we can pass number Fargo and move up to number 5. That'd be sad. None of this is something we should be proud of, and reasons why past councils have voted this idea down. Alcohol is a dangerous drug, and it is a drug, causing safety and health issues. I have talked about the safety issues, but let me spend a couple minutes talking about the health part. I think all of you know I lead a cancer support group, and which is now a mailing list of over 200 people. There are very few days in a year I'm not learning more about cancer and other health issues because I deeply care about others. 3 weeks ago, I spoke to over 200 people at a cancer prayer service a couple nights before a rock cancer event. This morning, I was on WHBY radio talking about cancer. On the 18th, I'll have a booth with free educational materials at Appleton Lions Senior Expo. And on September 26th, I will be speaking at the Wisconsin Cancer Summit in Milwaukee. So what does this have to do with alcohol? A lot. We all know that asbestos, tobacco, and radiation are all considered group 1 carcinogens, but how many of you know that alcohol is also in this most dangerous group? Researchers are finding that alcohol is related to more and more types of cancers, with the top 2 being breast cancer and oral cancer. And if you've ever talked to somebody with oral cancer, it's a sad situation. I have done it. We're now hearing from studies that the only safe amount of alcohol consumption is 0. That includes beer, wine, and hard liquor. There are states now talking about requiring warning labels on all alcohol products like is currently done for tobacco products. This issue became more personal for me as they see members of my cancer group go into advanced stages of this horrible disease and die each year. I bring in speakers each month to guide them through their journeys, but all I can really do is show empathy for them. The third part of the discussion is what happens to our current convenience stores. We know if this ordinance passes tonight, few of them will still be around in 5 years. Businesses that have been here for decades and have served our citizens well. The word that is often been talked about this evening and before this is fairness. There are different ways of looking at that word. One currently is why Neenah citizens, as discussed earlier this evening, are paying 30 cents a gallon or more for gas than citizens pay in Appleton, Manitowoc, or Fond du Lac. Less competition will not help that problem. If we allow the creep of alcohol to pass this evening, where will it end? If we only allow beer, we won't be fair to the mega convenience stores that also sell wine and hard liquor. How about Appleton raising the sale of alcohol to midnight so second shift workers can buy it on their way home? Isn't that being fair? Alcohol is a legal drug, and I remember being an 18-year-old legally drinking at what were called beer bars. The dangers of alcohol became a lot closer to our family when my wife was working the early morning shift at FedEx in Oshkosh years ago. Imagine driving south on Interstate 41 at 1:30 in the morning and have the car in front of you quickly pull over and you're left facing a car coming at you. Luckily, she guessed the right way to go that night, but it happened one more time a couple years later, and you have to assume at that time in the morning it was another drunk driver. People move to and build in our city because of our values, including no alcohol in parks and feeling safe here. I've had numerous people email or talk to me thanking me for my stance on this issue, including a former mayor who just turned 90. At least last week's Public Service and Safety meeting, we had 2 representatives from Quick Trip speak who spoke again tonight. One of the things they said was how small the profit margin was on alcohol. I have a lot of respect for how they run their company and how well I've heard they treat their employees. But you have to consider, without being able to sell alcohol, how hard it is finding a parking place at their business, along with a huge profit on gasoline in our city. And you have to wonder why alcohol is such a big issue to them. I'm guessing why our citizens drive to convenience stores in other cities is to purchase gasoline that is 30% a gallon cheaper and not to buy alcohol when we already have 52 locations here in Neenah. In conclusion, we have the American Cancer Society and others telling us that studies continue to show us that the only safe amount of alcohol to consume is 0. We also have the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, telling us that for the safety and health of our citizens, we need to reduce the access to alcohol, like has happened with cigarettes. Yet we are here tonight considering doing just the opposite of what they are asking cities to do. I hope you'll join me this evening in voting against this ordinance change, as past city councils have. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-2.
And the last item, item number 7, committee recommends council approve the cities of Appleton and Neenah memorandum of agreement for weights and measures services, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Council President Borchert. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 9-0.
And that's the end of my report.
Thank you for your report. There was no Finance and Personnel Committee meeting. Moving on then to the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee and Joint Fire Commission meeting of August 27th. Chairman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Minutes can be found on the city website for the August 27th, 2024 meeting. Excuse me. Both committees and the commission recommend both councils direct Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue staff and Director Fairchild to complete an in-house comprehensive position classification study for Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue administrative non-union positions. And I would entertain a motion.
There's a motion by Council President Borchert, seconded by Alderman Weber. Alderman Pono.
Thank you, Mayor. I voted against this committee, not in the committee. After a lot of discussion, I'll kind of explain why. This study would only include 5 of our current employees, and it goes against, as Director Fairchild said in the committee, we have a 3 to 5 year study policy, and the 3 years wouldn't be until 2025. I think we've never done it this way in the past, where we take one department, as I can recollect, by doing a study which will have financial and morale implications. I think it's better to do any of these studies all at once, so we're all on the same sheet of music, budget-wise and morale-wise. And I guess I would ask Director Fairchild if she could weigh in on her thoughts on this as currently structured. Berka.
So we do have a 3 to 5 year policy, as Paul No said. I think that the way this is wrote, I mean, this isn't any different than us coming to do a reclassification request. I think there are some things that Chief has put in his request to look at some parameters that would warrant a reclassification, and he's wanting to look at all of his staff rather than just one or two, which is a little different than what we've done in the past. But I think that it doesn't hurt to look at it, but again, to do a whole department outside of our 3 to 5 year plan is a little unorthodox. But
Thank you. Now, is it because, as I understand it, some of the negatives about doing, I guess I would say, kind of piecemeal. We usually do it all at once because then we can have financial and everything kind of on the same level.
so the
budget-wise.
way it typically works whenever we bring in a market classification study is that we hire in a third-party company that goes out and they look at other like entities with the size, structure, and overall per capita of an organization and see how they compare to ourselves to see if we are under market, over market. Council's directive has been to be at the 60% range with our market study. We did ours 2 years ago. We might have been early to the punch because we're now seeing some people pull away from us, and that's unfortunate. But with our policy being 3 to 5 years, unless the council directs that to be different, that's kind of the trajectory that we're on.
But I guess I would say, wouldn't this be problematic, though? Because, I think Water Department just tried to do this, which is also problematic to have each department go on their own path.
When you pull one department away from the rest of the study, if you're looking at a full market analysis, then their market study is done at a different rate than everybody else's, and it breaks the pay scale apart. And you want to try to keep everybody on the same plan so that we have congruency amongst the pay plan, so it has consistency.
Yeah, and that was my concern. That's why I will be voting against this, because I think
And we can still look at the classification. It would stick within the pay scale. We wouldn't be changing the market data that we used, only the classification data by how it's wrote here. So if it reclassifies it because I changed an education level, the difference there is it may change a grade, which would have a financial impact on the position.
And wouldn't this be problematic right around budget time, though? Because doesn't it put the...
That's how we wrote the policy too, so that if we did if there was a request for a reclassification, it was done at budget time so that it could be written into the budget requests. It was part of the evaluation process that we're doing. So we did an evaluation. We determined whether or not the positions needed to be reclassified, and that was the request that's supposed to come through on the personnel evaluations that are done. And I'd have to go back and look and see if that was requested on these particular positions. I don't have that in front of me.
But wouldn't it be fair to say if we do certain positions based from 2022 to today, the inflationary, you could have an imbalance among other employees?
There is a variety of reasons to do a reclassification. It can be additional job duties, educational requirements, but again, this is a little unique in that it's a whole department. So, but that makes it a little unique, but I don't know that, as long as we're not factoring in that I'm going back out and doing salary data, and I'm only looking at specifics for where they fit in the grade, yes, it'll have a financial impact, but it won't break the scale based on how it's wrote here. Because this isn't asking me to go out and do a market data study. It's asking for an in-house comprehensive study. So I'm just looking at the point value system to see whether or not it fits where it's at or if it needs to be moved within the current scale.
So will this have a financial impact for the 2025 budget discussion?
It could if it moves those positions.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Fairchild, so can you just clarify, the bottom line is this, you're not opposed to this motion that's on the floor?
I'm not opposed to looking at it, correct.
Right.
I would be opposed to going out and doing a full market analysis.
Right.
For a
Because-
specific department.
Right, because we will be doing that citywide in 2025.
Correct.
Alderman Boyette?
Thank you, Mayor. So that's generally what I was going to ask you, because I was in the committee, and when you were really excited, and I was excited for you because you're going to get the certification in so that we can do some things in-house, and that's going to save us a lot.
Right.
So, and I'm excited for you as well, because I think that's a great tool for you to have. So that's where I was confused, because I think I was as excited for you and the fact that we were going to be able to do this, and that you said, yes, you could do it in September. And then I was worried about budget time and everything else on your plate that you have going on as well. So not to dump another thing on you. So that's where I didn't make the initial motion on this, because I was unclear as to what you truly were trying to say in this. Is this something, the way it's worded, you can get behind tonight, or do we need to table this and give you more time to investigate this and bring this back?
This I can do internally tonight. Basically, I'll take the recommendation that Chief Tesh has brought to us for education and experience requirements, and it's just a simple slide on a scale to determine whether or not it revalues those positions and if they would go into a different grade on the scale. This doesn't require going out to different departments, identifying those departments. That would take a lot more time. This is a little simpler process once I get that tool to be able to do it in-house.
So by us passing this, council passing this the way it's written this evening, that won't have any negative impact on moving forward with everything. Your budget's going to balance, their budget's going to balance.
I can't say the budgets won't, I can't tell you how it will financially impact. I don't know what the budget says, so I can't speak to that. All I can say is I can tell you where it would fit in the pay scale, bring that to you, and let you know how it would affect the finances. I can't tell you whether or not you have the money to support
So
it.
tonight, we're just giving you the permission to go ahead and get that information.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that. I really appreciate you clearing that up.
Council President Borchert?
Thank you. I voted for this. It was a simple inquiry. Director Fairchild said she could do it, and if we had to make some decisions financially, it would come back to council. So I appreciate the efforts doing this. I think it's a great idea. More information to make better educated decisions.
Sure.
Is there any further discussion? Please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-1. The next item on the agenda is the regular Plan Commission meeting. That meeting was canceled. Next is the Landmarks Commission meeting report from August 14th. Is there a report, Alderman Weber?
Thank you, Mayor. The commission did meet. We did not have a quorum, so there were no minutes or anything to vote on. We did just have a quick discussion on logistics around the Voyager canoe at the powwow event this weekend. So other than that, that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. Bergstrom Mahler Museum, Council President Borchert.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Reporting out from the August 28, 2024 Bergstrom Mahler Museum meeting. First off, I just want to say I've been on the board now for a year and a half, and I'm utterly impressed with the amount of things going on at that museum and the commitment that they have to serving our community. And it's loaded. I mean, I'm sitting through committee meeting or the board meetings, just fascinated with how many events they have and how much they do to support our community. So I wanted to make sure that was very clear. A couple of notes: they our Help Us Grow Spring Fund Drive, April 15th through August 1st has wrapped up, and they raised $32,000 in grants from the Community Foundation for Fox Valley for the Fox Valley region and the Oshkosh Community Foundation, and $21,000 from the Spring Fund Drive, so a total of $53,000. That's $3,000 over their goal. So many thanks went out to the board in assisting and support for the urgent need of new kilns. The 2024 Glass Festival was a huge success. Between the VIP reception and the day, our attendance was about 5,371 people. A real nice increase from last year. They raised over $42,000 in sponsorships and $7,300 in revenue for the day and the festival for a total of over $50,000. So you can check out the photos of the Glass Arts Festival on their website. The next cool community event coming up is Art After Dark, the Renaissance Fair, so you can pull out all your Renaissance garb and costumes to be able to join on September 26th. That's from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. And then just in case you're feeling you need to stretch, they have yoga on the lawn every Tuesday at noon. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you for your report. Alderman Weber, is there a Parks and Rec Commission report?
There is, thank you, Mayor. The Park and Rec Commission met last week, August 27th, prior to the Public Services and Safety Committee meeting. The two business items were the two items around Arrowhead Prairie design and the design and engineering services that we discussed and voted on earlier tonight, and that was the end of the report.
Thank you for your report. Are there any petitions? No petitions. There are no petitions. Are there any council directives? Seeing none, unfinished business. I will turn that to Director Hayes.
Thank you, Mayor. You have a corrective resolution in front of you tonight to deal with some Scrivener errors as it's related to the original resolution creating TIF 13. The TIFs, once they are completed and approved both by Council and Joint Review Board, go on to the State of Wisconsin Department of Revenue for review. They've found a couple things that they have asked us to include within our resolution, one being that at least minimum 50% of the area of the property within the TIF would be suitable for industrial development and would be maintained as industrial zone property through the life of the TIF. And secondly, that we have a boundary agreement with the town of Neenah. Happy to answer any questions.
Is there a motion? Alderman Ellis made a motion, seconded by Alderman Weber. Any discussion? Alderman Polno.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Hayes, I have to give you accolades for the term Scrivener's errors. I don't know if you were getting your legal dictionary or what, because I had to Google that to find out what that. Is this something, this wouldn't have to go back through Joint Review Board or anything, will it?
No, it does not.
Okay, thanks.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 9-0. Is there any new business? Alderman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple comments about sidewalks. We often hear people who don't want them complain about them, whatever. I had a woman come up to me at Out to Lunch last Thursday who lives on Plummer Court, where we put a new sidewalk in about 3 weeks ago, and hers was part of it. And she was talking about how wonderful it was that the sidewalk went in. She says, I never knew we had that many children on our street that are now out riding bikes, riding scooters, playing on the streets. I see neighbors out actually standing on the sidewalk talking to other neighbors. She goes, it's amazing the change that sidewalk has made. So, it does make a difference when we put sidewalks out. The people who say, nobody walks on our street, nobody does anything on our street, and a lot of that's because you don't have a sidewalk. And that's what Plummer Court was. So just happy to report that.
Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. I saw in the news that Menasha Packaging is adding a $50 million expansion. And in the article, it said it would be in the city of Neenah. And I was wondering if either you or Chris Hayes could speak to that. It sounds like a really positive thing for the city. So
I don't think it's necessarily an expansion. I believe it's a machine. So it's equipment within the building. To be honest, I don't know which facility. They have two facilities in town. on Brooks and Gillingham. So I'm assuming it'll be in one of those two. But that's really about all I know. It's
Thank
a
you.
little bit of a surprise for us as well, but a nice one.
Yeah.
Any additional new business? Seeing,
Motion to adjourn?
thank you. There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, we are adjourned.
The City of Neenah is pleased to provide video recordings of City Council meetings. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents from the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or completing the electronic feedback form on the city website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited.